Andor season 2, I really enjoyed season 1. Obviously, there was episodes that were kind of slow, some episodes that there wasn't really much happening in it. So I'm hoping that with season 2, they kind of pick up the pace, and it looks like they will. I was reading that originally they had a plan for like 5 seasons, and then Tony Gilroy was saying it's impossible. It's like the production's like impossible to do just because just based on season 1, like they go on location, they have all these amazing sets and production value and everything. So sustaining that for 4 more seasons was kind of impossible. So they're kind of cramming 4 seasons, or I guess 4 years worth of material into 1, which I think is pretty cool. I know some people who like the slower pace of season 1 will probably be a little jarring for them, but at least for us, me and like other hardcore Star Wars fans kind of want to see more, like pick up the pace a little bit more Star Wars lore tie-ins a little bit will be really cool. So I'm hoping that they do that with season 2 and just get us to the events of Rogue One and kind of see Andor's arc of kind of being this guy who like runs away from the fight to finally join the fight, and then in Rogue One where he obviously gives his life for the rebellion to get the plans for the Death Star. Yeah, and something I'm really excited to see is Cassian Andor finally crossing paths with Mon Mothma, just because in the first season they're very separated and everything. A lot of characters were very separate, a lot of storylines going on. So it'd be kind of cool to see those characters finally meet up with each other, just because in Rogue One, obviously they were on Yavin 4, so it'd be cool to finally see them cross paths, see how they finally interact. It's kind of like Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen, finally meeting at the end of like Game of Thrones season 6, where it's like finally we see the Song of Ice and Fire, come together and everything. So I'm hoping that we kind of see that with Cassian Andor and with Mon Mothma, just because they're such important characters, especially in Rogue One, and then obviously for Mon Mothma in Return of the Jedi. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that and kind of see like what their interaction is going to be, how they're going to deal with each other, how they're going to finally kind of like gel together and work together to make these plans to steal the plans for the Death Star and move forward with the rebellion, and how the rebellion's going to finally form and finally begin an alliance to take on the Empire. So I hope we kind of get to see more of that. Yeah, I'm really excited for season 2. Like I said before, I'm glad that they're not stretched along for another 4 seasons, but really kind of compress it all into like 1 season. And I don't mind the fact that it'll be another 12 episodes. I'm hoping that each episode will actually be packed with story. Hopefully we'll actually get like hour-long episodes. We'll kind of get like that breakneck speed and pace for these episodes, and that we'll finally have that epic conclusion that'll lead on to Rogue One, and then obviously we'll lead on to A New Hope. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. I'm really excited. Like I said before, I enjoyed season 1. I just wish it was kind of more compressed, more eventful, and it looks like they'll be doing that with season 2 moving forward. But yeah, I'm excited to see what happens of Cassian Andor, how we kind of see his arc throughout the season. So for Andor season 2, Benjamin Bratt is actually going to be cast in an undisclosed role. Honestly, I have no idea who he could be. Maybe he'll be like a relative of Andor. Maybe he was one of the kids who escaped when his planet was being attacked, and this would kind of be like them reuniting. Maybe they'll be enemies and they slowly become friends in the end. Maybe by the end of this season, Benjamin Bratt's character gets sacrificed, and that kind of fully brings Andor into the fight with the rebellion. Or maybe he can be one of the Imperials. We honestly don't know at this point, but I think Benjamin Bratt's a great actor. I've seen him in a couple things. I haven't seen everything that he's been in, but from what I know, he can be like very dark and dramatic, but he can also have like a funny lighter side. But I think he's probably going to play more of like a darker, dramatic role. So hopefully we'll kind of get more confirmation with his role. But yeah, I'm excited that he's in the next season of Andor. They also talked about the format of the series, how there's going to be 12 episodes and there's going to be 4 3-episode arcs, and with each of the arcs is going to encapsulate 1 year of the Star Wars timeline. So that's going to be cool. Like I said previously, they were originally wanting to have 4 more seasons, and each season was going to take place over a year, but it looks like they're going to kind of cram all that in 1 season and have 3 episodes encapsulate 1 year. So I think that could be cool. Also for Andor, the last 3 episodes are supposed to take place over the last 3 days leading up to Rogue One. So that could be really cool. I was reading that Tony Gilroy really wants to ramp up the tension and really get the ball rolling of how this rebellion forms. And he says that the last couple minutes of the last episode is supposed to lead directly into Rogue One. So that's actually going to be really cool. So yeah, it looks like they're really going to pick up the pace with this season, and yeah, I'm actually really excited. And just based on the footage that was played at Star Wars Celebration, it looks like they're really going to kind of hit the ground running with characters meeting up with each other and setting the stage for the events of Rogue One, and then eventually that will lead into A New Hope. At this past D23, they showed footage from the upcoming season of Andor, and apparently it showed Ben Mendelsohn as Orson Krennic and Alan Tudyk as K2SO. So that's really exciting, and yeah, totally makes sense since, like I was saying before, the last couple episodes of Andor season 2 are supposed to lead directly into Rogue One, and it's cool that we're going to be seeing the reintroduction of Orson Krennic and K2SO. So hopefully we're able to get more development for those characters, just because I know Rogue One is a very one and done story, obviously, and we don't really get too much time to spend with Krennic or with K2SO. So it'd be cool to see more of like their backstory and their history and their motivation of like why they're part of the Empire, and why they're wanting to take down this upcoming rebellion and the different relationships that they have with the certain characters, especially Orson Krennic's relationship with Galen Erso, the father Jyn Erso, and that whole fallout that happened, because we got that brief flashback in Rogue One, but it'd be cool if we got more of the development with that. And I know there's rumors that Matt Mikkelsen is supposed to be coming back as Galen Erso, so we'll see if that's confirmed or not. So I really enjoyed the book by James Luceno called Catalyst, and it's really about the backstory of Galen Erso and Orson Krennic, and how they were kind of like friends, then became enemies, and then how one secretly developed plans for a weakness within the Death Star to eventually blow it up. So hopefully they tie more of that in, because I think that's a really good story and could really incorporate more backstory for those characters and for those moments in Rogue One and eventually in New Hope. And of course we got confirmation that K2SO is in this story. K2SO was definitely my favorite character in Rogue One, so to get more of him in this story would be really cool. One of the bummers about season 1 is that I thought K2SO was going to appear in that, but I know that since this story is supposed to take place over 5 years, that I guess would be kind of early if he popped up in season 1. So I know there's that episode where Andor gets arrested when he's on that beach planet, and then there's those Imperial droids there, and I thought that would be him, and that Andor would meet him in the prison, and that they would kind of work together to break out, and then form their friendship there. But I'm glad they're saving him for season 2 so we can get more development for that. I'm not sure when he's going to pop up. I don't know if it's going to be towards the beginning of season 2 or the middle, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see how those two kind of meet, and then how they finally kind of reprogram K2SO to go from working for the Empire to finally helping out with the upcoming rebellion. But yeah, overall it looks really cool. The footage just kind of described all the conflicts that are happening as the rebellion's starting to form, and there's a lot of battles and a lot of political intrigue and everything like that. Saw Gerrera pops up in there a little bit more, so it'd be cool to get more of his backstory as he's kind of an insurgent, definitely not with the Empire but not quite with the rebellion. So cool to see his whole dynamic, more of Luthen and Bix and Mon Mothma and all the other kind of rebel characters as well. So yeah, overall I'm really excited for this season. I think as time's gone on, I've definitely kind of processed the first season of Andor more, and I kind of appreciate it more for what it is, especially kind of all the hit or miss shows that we've gotten over the past couple of years. Andor is definitely the gold standard of what a show should be, Star Wars for adults. So I definitely appreciate a lot more as the years have gone on. And yeah, I'm really excited for season 2 and excited for these updates and excited for these different characters that are going to be popping up as the show goes on. And yeah, I think it'd be really cool. On February 24th, we got a brand new poster and a brand new trailer. And just starting off the poster, it looks really cool. Definitely has all the different characters involved and definitely kind of reflects the tone that was set in the trailer. Yeah, it definitely kind of reminds me of Rogue One with that whole poster with all the characters kind of mixed and matched together, especially since this season is supposed to lead directly into Rogue One. I'm sure that Tony Gilroy and the other creators are trying to emulate the tone that was established in that movie. But yeah, it definitely just gets me excited for what's to come in this season and show how this rebellion is starting to form, as well as all the conflict that they're going to be having with the Empire. But yeah, just to jump into the trailer, it looks incredible. Just right off the bat, it just shows all the different locations and the different missions that Andor and the rest of the rebels are going to be going on, which looks really, really cool. And I think what I'm most excited for is that the fact that we're just going to hit the ground running with the events that are going to lead us into Rogue One. And just as I was reporting before, these 12 episodes are supposed to take place over the 4 years leading up to Rogue One. So I'm sure there's definitely going to be a lot more action. It's going to be a lot more faster paced. There's going to be a lot more battles and a lot more drama and a lot more confrontations with the characters. So I'm definitely excited about that. The only kind of thing that I was kind of in about was the music. I thought it was kind of a weird choice. This kind of rock song over a Star Wars trailer, but no, this was the teaser. I'm pretty sure we're probably going to get an official trailer sometime soon with more of the kind of classical score. As I watched the trailer a little bit more and more, I kind of got used to the music, but yeah, still kind of jarring the first time I listened to it. But yeah, it definitely introduces a lot more characters. We get more glimpses of Ben Mendelsohn as Orson Krennic, which looks really good. We also see a shot of Orson Krennic kind of looking through the windows of the Imperial Star Destroyer at the Death Star being constructed. So it's cool that we're seeing payoff from that storyline that we had in season 1 of when Andor was sent to prison. He was kind of working on these little machine bits and we didn't really know what they were. And then we kind of cut to the ending of season 1 and we see that the parts were actually parts of the Death Star. So it's cool that we're starting to see that payoff in season 2. And obviously Rogue One will definitely be all about getting the plans for the destruction of the Death Star. So I'm glad that we're seeing those little hints here. And hopefully we'll see more of that in season 2. I feel like in Andor season 2, he's definitely going to be at the height of his arrogance. And once we get into Rogue One, he starts to kind of get pounded on by Tarkin and Vader and all these characters. But I think with this series, we're probably not going to see those characters. So he's definitely going to be at the height of his power, ruling over all these different Imperial officers and everything like that. So I think that'll be interesting. And then we got more glimpses of K2SO in there and the other kind of Imperial security droids. So I think that'll be really cool. And I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how Andor actually meets K2SO and how they kind of convert him from kind of an Imperial android into a rebel droid. So we'll see how that goes. And yeah, we definitely get more Mon Mothma and more Luthen and
more Bix and Saw Gerrera and a couple of the other characters that were introduced in season 1. So I'm looking forward to see more of their characters within the series and how they're kind of integrated into the different episodes and more of the different villains like Cyril and Dedra. And it'll be interesting to see if, just based on the trailer, it definitely seems like they're in over their heads as far as like this rebellion growing. And I'm wondering if, especially if Cyril, if he's going to be converted by at first working with the Imperials and then eventually working with the rebellion, and maybe he'll get sacrificed in the end or something. And I'm wondering if maybe Dedra will kind of convert to the rebellion, or if Orson Krennic will send some kind of treachery with her and then she gets killed off or something. But yeah, who knows? But I know there's definitely going to be a lot of twists and turns in this, especially since it takes place over 4 years. You know, anything could happen. And we only get 12 episodes, so it's definitely going to be a very fast-paced show. And yeah, it definitely looks like it's going to be very eventful and very emotional, very dramatic, and very action-packed. So yeah, definitely looking forward to this, and I thought it was a great trailer. Also on March 5th, we got a special look at Andor Season 2. We got more behind the scenes from Tony Gilroy and the rest of the cast and crew talking about the production. And you know, kind of like I was reporting earlier, it definitely looks like this is going to be an even bigger season than season 1, and there's going to be a lot more production value and a lot more like sets being built and hundreds of extras everywhere, and you know, a lot of like practical effects that they're going to be using. Like obviously they're going to be using a lot of visual effects, you know, from ILM, but it looks like they're going to have a lot of stuff that was like in camera, you know, just to enhance the authenticity and the production value of this, you know, epic production. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that. And yeah, I can definitely understand why Tony Gilroy wanted to kind of wrap everything up in one season, just because, you know, like I was saying earlier, you can definitely see like he put a lot of stuff on screen, and to sustain that for another 4 seasons was definitely impossible. So I'm glad that he's compressing it all in one season and, you know, just make it easier on himself and, you know, just tell this grand story, wrap it up in 12 episodes and, you know, just make it the best thing it can be. But yeah, overall looks like the cast and crew are definitely excited about this show. And going back to like the trailer with all the different like great critic reviews that they had for the first like couple seconds of like from all these different, you know, news outlets, you can definitely tell that the cast and crew are definitely very proud of what they worked on, and you know, the critical acclaim that the show's been getting. You know, this is kind of like the best thing since Mandalorian like years ago, and you know, people will kind of regard this show as like kind of like the best thing that Star Wars has made since, you know, the original trilogy. And yeah, I definitely agree that yeah, Andor is definitely one of the best shows for Star Wars and for Disney Plus. And it's too bad that, you know, the numbers weren't exactly there, but you know, I'm sure like with season 2, hopefully, you know, the viewership will go up and the good word of mouth that season 1 got will transfer over to season 2, and that not only will it be like a critically acclaimed show again, but it also will be like really good for viewership as well for Star Wars and for Disney Plus. So we'll see how it goes. Also on March 24th, the official trailer was released, and yeah, I definitely really enjoyed it. I think it was definitely an improvement on the previous trailer, which I did like, but I think that one of the main problems was just like the music and the tone that I was trying to set. It kind of emphasized more of the action and not really more of like the story or the character. But with this trailer, it definitely emphasized the drama that was going on and all the kind of like political intrigue and the different obstacles that the characters are going to be facing. You can really see like Cassian Andor coming to his own as the leader of the rebellion, where like in the first season, he was really resistant to join the rebellion, but now he's really becoming like a leader for the rebellion and eventually leading the mission to find the plans for the Death Star. And speaking of which, we're definitely getting more hints of the Death Star. We get more shots of the Death Star being constructed and being overseen by Orson Krennic. Definitely getting more of his role within the Empire and kind of the intimidation factor he brings on the other characters. And we're kind of seeing like where the lines are being drawn within the Empire, especially with the character of Dedra. It seems like, kind of like I was saying before, like she's kind of in over her head and she's kind of starting to regret what she's doing, you know, within the Empire. So I do have theories that maybe she might turn and maybe join the rebellion, or just kind of betray the Empire, might be killed off or something. And then we're kind of getting more of Cyril and how he's kind of getting more and more entrenched within the Empire, and you know, becoming like a darker and darker character, because he was kind of like not really taken seriously in season 1. So it'd be interesting to see like what happens to him in season 2, how he becomes darker. Maybe he's the one who kind of executes Dedra, but who knows, we'll have to find out. But yeah, it definitely seems like there's definitely going to be more betrayal and more double dealing and everything like that. You know, these characters are really starting to become exposed, where like season 1, like they were kind of like slowly but surely kind of planting the seeds of like starting the rebellion, but now they're full on within the rebellion, and you know, the Empire is going to have to kind of rise to the challenge to kind of, you know, crush the rebellion once and for all, and you know, become the dominant force, no pun intended. So I'm definitely excited to see more of that. And yeah, this trailer definitely showed like the intensity and the drama of like what's going on and the stakes that these characters are facing. I also appreciate how, despite all this different like action and special effects, you know, the filmmakers are really kind of keeping it focused on the characters. We kind of get individual clips of how these events are affecting the different characters. Like we show like Bix and a couple other characters like kind of on that wheatfield planet, and how, you know, they're kind of enjoying themselves and everything, but then, you know, the Empire's kind of like slowly but surely kind of taking control of their village, and you know, how they're trying to like rise up against that. And definitely feels kind of like, you know, like World War II and everything, you know, which was a big inspiration for Star Wars. So I'm glad they're kind of expanding on that whole idea of an unstoppable empire, you know, crushing, you know, these different innocent people during wartime and everything. So I think that was really cool. And we get a little bit more of Saw Gerrera in there, kind of like setting the stage stage for how he is in Rogue One and kind of showing like how he's an insurgent, but he's also really passionate about, defeating the Empire despite his kind of controversial means, but you can tell that he really cares. We also get a little bit more of like Luthen putting on his wig and trying to pretend that he's kind of like this relic shopkeeper and everything, but he's also, trying to pass information about the rebellion, and then kind of like on the flip side of his character, trying to encourage Andor to become this leader within the rebellion and kind of like teach him how to be a soldier and, fight for the right cause and everything. So I think that was really cool as well. And then we also get Mon Mothman there. We're finally getting scenes of her within the Imperial Council and kind of pleading her case to the Senate to stop the Empire, more on the political side rather than on the fighting side. So I'm glad that we're seeing more of her, and then seeing her, dealing with other political figures within the Empire to bring them down and everything. So I'm definitely excited to see more of that and kind of get more set up for what we've been kind of hinting at in A New Hope when it comes to like the Imperial Senate and it being dissolved and everything. So I think that'll be really exciting to see for sure. I think the only downside is that it was kind of short. It was only like 1 minute and 40 seconds. So I'm just like, just as I was starting to kind of get into the trailer, it kind of just ended like, oh man. So yeah, it just definitely gets me more excited for the premiere that's going to be happening pretty soon. And speaking of which, kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but early this month, the episode release schedule was revealed. We're going to be getting 3 episodes on April 22nd, which is really exciting, but now I'm going to have to clear up my day so that I can watch 3 episodes back to back to back. But if that wasn't enough, every week we'll be getting 3 episodes leading up to May 13th, which is even crazier. So it's pretty much like we're getting a movie every single week, depending on how long the episodes are. I'm pretty sure they're probably going to be between like 45 to an hour long episodes. So we're pretty much getting like a feature length film every single week. So that's going to be exciting, but now I'm definitely going to have to clear up my calendar even more so I can actually watch all these episodes, or just take the week to kind of just pick my time to watch each episode. But yeah, that's really exciting and something that Disney Plus has never done before. So I'm not really sure like why they're doing that, but maybe Tony Gilroy just figured that it's just easier to watch the 3 episodes in a row. Kind of like I was saying earlier, it's kind of like a feature length story that's just split up into 3 arcs, and you probably figure it's just easier just to watch like an entire arc in one sitting rather than have to space it out week to week. So yeah, we'll see how that goes, but yeah, I'm definitely excited for it. And then also early this month, we got a couple of TV spots, kind of more or less showing the footage that we already seen before. There's a couple of clips here and there that look pretty exciting, but definitely gets me more excited for the 3 episode premiere. And actually, as of this recording, we got a new character video explaining the character of Cassian Andor, and a little bit more behind the scenes of Tony Gilroy and all the actors talking about Andor and the role that he plays within the upcoming rebellion and where his character is heading to for Rogue One. I'm pretty sure probably throughout the week they'll show more character videos, kind of more or less saying the same thing. But either way, like I'm really excited for this season, and it's going to be sad that this is going to be the final season, but kind of like what I was saying earlier, like I'm really excited that we're going to hit the ground running with this story, and it's going to be really cool that we're going to get 3 episodes every week. So I'm really hoping that our time will be rewarded, and I'm pretty sure like with all the love that Tony Gilroy and the cast and crew have been putting into this series, it's going to be worth it. Also, a couple days ago, as of this recording, we got a brand new clip of Andor Season 2 of Andor trying to steal a TIE fighter. It definitely reminded me of the scene in Force Awakens where Finn and Poe are trying to steal a TIE fighter, or the scene in The Phantom Menace where Anakin climbs into the N1 starfighter and is messing around with the controls and is firing the laser guns at the destroyers. But with this one, I feel like it just felt more real. I really appreciate the mix of practical effects and visual effects, and how they're mixing like the practicality of like the interior of the TIE fighter with the kind of visual effects enhancements of the exterior and the classic stormtrooper costumes. We're not getting any CGI costumes, and I really like the end of the clip where Andor is succeeding and he's blowing all the TIE fighters away with the laser guns, and you think he's going to escape, but then the rocket launcher stormtrooper comes in and like, shoots at him, and then Andor is barely able to dodge it, and then Andor aims the laser cannon at the stormtrooper and is about to fire, and he's trying to pull the trigger, but then nothing happens, and the rocket trooper's about to reload and he's about to fire, but then it cuts to the graphic of Andor Season 2 coming April 22nd, Disney Plus. I'm like, oh no! So we just have to wait a couple more days to see the conclusion of that scene. I have no idea what episode that's going to be in. Hopefully that's in the first episode. Maybe it's like the opening of the episode. Literally open the episode with a bang. So yeah, it just gets me even more excited for it for sure. And then we got another TV spot showing more of the drama between the characters and about the rising of the rebellion and the stakes that these characters are going to be facing as they're trying to face the Empire. And there's also a quick shot of K2SO and Andor inside one of the starfighters together. So that definitely gets me excited to see those 2 characters together for sure. Again, like I keep saying before, like all these different trailers and clips and promotional materials definitely getting me more excited for the premiere. And yeah, definitely excited that's going to be a 3 episode premiere. And yeah, we'll see what happens on April 22nd. But yeah, definitely can't wait for sure.